Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Precious. Thank you so much for coming back again. Guys, like I said, thank you so much for coming back to my channel once again. Today is very interesting, and it's one of the reasons why I love being on YouTube. One of the reasons why I love doing my South Africans Abroad collaborations is that we get to be informed, we get to have another session with discovering another person's journey and life abroad as a South African, as a Black South African as well, because I think that's much more important to me because I can relate and most of my subscribers can relate as well. Today we are collaborating with someone who lives in Europe, who lives in Sweden. So right now in Sweden, guys, it's very much snow time, like heavy snow, it's like heavy winter. And right now back at home is like in the middle of summer, so it's just a different type of like lifestyle altogether, and we are about to just kind of dive into that and his journey.
So this is one of the more obvious differences between Sweden and South Africa. This is winter over here, and it's pretty normal day. Just because the weather's bad doesn't mean you have to stay inside. In fact, you actually get used to it. It's maybe -2 degrees. I'm not even wearing gloves. This is just, this is what I'd call a hot cold day. Hot winter's day, yeah, that's the better term. So I'm gonna walk the dog, and then when I'm back indoors, I'll continue with the other differences.
So guys, like I said, the reason why I started this series is because I think it's so interesting. I think it's very valuable for people who want to start their lives abroad, for people who are living abroad, for people who want to see how other people are moving. Maybe it can spark some inspiration, some motivation. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Am I wasting my time, or should I think about it? Well, the more I do these things, then the more we can kind of both find out. My collaboration today is with Athini. Athini, welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to feature on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for giving me your time. So please introduce yourself. Where are you originally from in South Africa, and where do you live right now?
Hi. Athini here. I'm from Cape Town. In Cape Town, I lived in Rosebank and Muizenberg, and then I studied at Cape Town Hotel School, worked for a year in Cape Town, and when I finished that, I left the country and went to USA for a year. Came back, found another job in South Africa, worked for maybe 2-3 years, and then since that period, I've been in and out of the country. With stints in Asia, South America, Europe, until finally settling in Sweden.
Athini, what do you currently do, and how long have you lived abroad?
I've since studied at a school called Hyper Island. I studied AI business consultancy, and I'm currently working as a semi-data analyst, future planner for I think it's the second biggest hospitality company in the Scandic region. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I would like to know, like, from living abroad, from living in South Africa as a business consultant, how did you make the transition from working in South Africa to now working in... So was the transition easy? And like, did you get help with the moving process with your company, or did you do it by yourself? Like, how was that whole process within your industry, and also from moving from South Africa to Sweden?
To Sweden was actually because of the relationship I am in. My fiance and I, we met in 2014, my bad. I moved to Sweden in 2016. We met in 2014. She rented my Airbnb in Cape Town. We became a couple, and then I also had an online company. So it was much easier for me to make the move than for her to move to South Africa, as there wasn't really that much tying me down with regards to work and commitments.
So I don't know a lot of South Africans that live in Sweden, and that's why I thought you were just so perfect, because now we get to know how you live there, you know. So as a South African living in Sweden right now, if you've lived there for quite some time, Do you still think it's a good place to settle down long term and make it possibly into a home?
The big differences between the work life in South Africa and Sweden, I'd say that people over here work to live, not live to work. So weekends, no one really expects you to do anything that's work related. If you finish work at 5 o'clock, you leave at 5 o'clock. There's none of that working until 8 to impress the boss. In fact, your boss probably won't be impressed because they'll be like, you need to have a good balance. You need to have a social life. You need your mental health in order to function properly.
So this is very interesting because we're all different people, we come from different worlds, we grow up differently, and we just kind of adapt to things differently as well. So I'd like to know from you, what notable culture shocks have you experienced, have you seen, like while navigating life in Sweden from a South African perspective?
For the most part, getting a job over here, studying over here, just being in Sweden has been very easy. In fact, there haven't even been that many culture shocks. If you understand Afrikaans, you can very easily understand the language over here. It will take you probably 3 or 4 months to learn it properly and fluently. I'm not super fluent. I can read, I don't really speak it, but you are able to function with just English. I'd say that the biggest thing for me that would be the closest to being a culture shock, the fact that they use week numbers over here. So instead of saying, let's book a holiday or a trip for the last week of August, people will just be like, yeah, what's week 31 to 32 looking like for you? And I was like, I have no idea what month that even is. So that's one of the smaller adjustments I've had to make. They drink a lot of coffee over here. I do not drink coffee. So that's like a social thing. I think, Sweden might be in the top 3 nations that drink the most coffee in the world. And it's like a tradition that they have this thing called fika. So it's like a 15-20 minutes break every day that's not associated with your lunch, where you just take coffee and scones or cake and just chat with your workmates. It's a pretty cool tradition. You should look it up. Fika, fika.
I know I ask my YouTube collaborations this a lot, but what things do you miss from home? If you miss anything, even if you don't miss anything, that's okay. But like, what do you miss from home? Because I know for me, sometimes I miss the food. Like, I love zinger wings, guys. I love KFC zinger wings, and I can do without them, but I definitely do miss them. What about you?
I'd say the things I miss most from home would be 3 F's: friends, family, food. The food over here isn't bad, but it doesn't taste like home. Friends, I've had friends forever back home, so I've had to navigate my way here and have a new social group. I feel it's big enough. Yeah, I've got quite a good social life over here. I won't complain about that, but it's just still not my childhood friends or people that I've known my whole life.
So I'd like to ask about community, and maybe let's touch on that a bit. So does Sweden, the whole country, do they have a good expat community there? Are there a lot of expats there? And also, is it easy to make friends? And I don't know, maybe this is unnecessary for some people, but can you find a South African community there? Because sometimes people, when they move abroad, they want to kind of find people who have a little bit of similarity. Maybe they are from the same country. So is there a South African community there?
There are about 2,600 South Africans living in the whole of Sweden right now, out of a population of about 10 million. So it's a very small community. With that being said, I do not hang out with them. I do not know what it is they do. I do not really care what it is they get up to. If I want to hang out with South Africans, I just go back home, hang out with my people. So yeah, I think for someone who maybe has that longing of feeling home and all of that, maybe it's for them to seek out. Personally, I'm here for new experiences, and yeah, it's not really my scene, the expat scene.
Okay, I would love to know, since moving abroad, how has your view of the world changed, developed, evolved rather? So, has living in Sweden had a positive or even a negative impact on you, on your life, and how you view the world?
When it comes to my views of back home, after moving here, they vary. I've always been positive about SA, but every now and then I just feel like things are hopeless, especially when there were the riots and all this other stuff going on. So I really don't know. One of the nice things about living in Sweden is that I'm not too focused on the politics here. I don't really care much about them. I should, but it's easier to just live your life and trust that the government is doing what it's supposed to be doing with your taxes.
People move abroad for a number of reasons. People move abroad for marriage, people move abroad for work opportunity, people move abroad for travel, and they literally never come back. But since you moving abroad, Athini, would you say that your quality of life is much different from when you were living in South Africa?
My quality of life since moving to Sweden, Stockholm, it's more or less on par with what I was doing and how I live my life back home. I feel that in Cape Town, I ate better when I went to restaurants. Over here, it's more going to the shops and cooking at home. It's a very hard thing to compare because the societies are so different. So over here, you have a society that everyone pays high taxes happily because they know that they're going towards a greater good. So whereas back home, I don't know if I should admit this, but I can say that I did not like paying my taxes. I did it, but I did not like doing it because I don't know where that money is going. I can't really see it. Over here, without stating the obvious, crime. I live across the road from a forest and I have a dog. At 10 o'clock, I can put on my headphones in the absolute darkness and walk my dog and not have to even think about anything happening to me that's crime related. Back home, I did not do that. So these are the small little nuances. It's just two totally different societies to compare quality of living. But I would like to have something that's in between, like something that's a mixture of Cape Town and Stockholm. And I don't know if there is a society like that, but yeah, I'd say for the most part, my standard of living and quality is more or less the same if you factor out the obvious things of crime and stability in the government. But then it's hard to not include those. So that's why I can't really answer this question. I think it's subjective. To put it long story short is I will live and work here and build a future here, but I want to retire to Cape Town, probably like in my late 60s or so. I'll definitely be spending more time in Cape Town than outside of the country. That's if, again, it has to do with the politics and stability back home. So I don't know. Yeah, I really can't answer this question.
So I live in Japan right now. I live in Tokyo, and in Japanese culture, one of the things I really love and appreciate is that it's important to take your shoes off. It's very trivial, but it's so important to take your shoes off when you enter, at an entrance in either someone's home, a restaurant, an establishment, anything. You literally have to take off your shoes and you wear inside shoes. Do you guys have a similar tradition? I think I read up on it, but do you have a similar tradition in Sweden? And can you tell me more about that?
Not used to that. So I have, in fact, at my place, in my apartment right now, I have a set of indoor slip-ons that, very comfortable. I always need to have something between me and the floor, not just socks. So, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, I do enjoy it. It keeps your house cleaner, especially when it's like today. It's a snowy day, so you don't want all of that gunk being dredged around the house. So yeah.
Okay, I'd love to know what is that thing, or what are those things that you absolutely enjoy about living in Sweden? Like, what do you enjoy about living abroad or in Sweden?
There are things about living here that drive many immigrants away. One of them is the weather. People cannot deal with the cold. And then even if you can deal with the cold, I mean, it hits minus 20 degrees sometimes. Today is minus 2-3 degrees, but I was out there without gloves, so it's not that cold yet. But another thing is the darkness. So now that we are into winter, it's 20 past 1 right now. By 2:30 it will be absolutely dark. So the sun comes up at like 10. By 2:30, 3 o'clock, it's gone. But in summer, it's the reverse of that. The sun goes down at 11, 12 p.m. and then rises at maybe 3, 4 a.m. So you have nice, long, hot days. Yeah. If you're looking for stability, this is the country for you. The salaries are not as high as other European countries, as let's say the UK, Germany, Switzerland, but it's a very stable economy. It's a stable government. The labor laws look after you. It's very hard to lose your job once you sign your permanent contract. And you are not, like I mentioned before, you are not living to work. You're working to live so that you can pay your bills and do whatever it is you need to do. And another thing is, over here, people don't chase titles because they are paid so well. So you could be a cashier at a local supermarket and you'll make like maybe 25,000 kroner, which should be about 35,000, 40,000 rands a month. And with that, as a single person, that's enough money for you to pay for your place, maybe have a car, and still be able to save for a holiday somewhere in Europe. And the thing that's nice about that is that the flights, because you're within Europe already, they're quite cheap and affordable. So it's a very stable, safe environment where things work and nothing crazy happens, whether it's politically or economically. So yeah, very stable. Good for families, good laws that look after families over here. Yeah.
So Athini, would you recommend someone watching our video right now, watching our conversation right now, watching our interaction, watching this collaboration from anywhere in the world, whether you are South African or not, but hopefully, would you recommend someone to move to Sweden in your specific industry as a business consultant?
You want a job in Sweden, I suggest you look up to see what the shortages are. From the tech side, I know they need lots of coders, programmers, software developers. I think there's also a shortage of nurses and doctors. But if you want to take that route, then you have to learn the language. The tech space functions across the country. For the most part across Europe, I think, aside from Germany, it functions in English. So the tech space is a very good way in. But if you're in the medical field, there's a shortage of doctors, there's a shortage of nurses, but you have to know the language, you have to know the medical terminology, and then you might even have to do some sort of conversion course to transfer your SA skills to this side of the world. But once you're in, it's a very good industry to be in. I recommend looking on LinkedIn. There's another website called glassdoor.se that has job listings
for Sweden and the Nordic region in general. I think for Europe in general, glassdoor.se. And then there's also a website called The Local or local.se that you could look at. As I've mentioned before, in the tech space over here, Stockholm is the second biggest area of its kind after Silicon Valley. So if you want to be in Europe and you want to be in the tech space, then this is a very, very good city to be in. With that being said, the salaries over here are not as high as in USA for the tech space. But because of the high taxes, a lot of the things that you'd be paying for are covered, like education, health, schooling. Well, I suppose that falls under education. There's a good functioning public transport system over here, so you don't really need to have a car. For the day-to-day things, the train does everything you need it to do. So yeah.
I would love to know what advice, because you've lived abroad for such a long time and you've gathered so much knowledge, you've met so many different people, seen different things, experienced different things. What advice or tips do you have for anyone who wants to work overseas, or anyone who wants to move overseas, or anyone that has a little bit of interest to relocate to Sweden?
Personally, I recommend, if you get the opportunity, the chance to live abroad, to do it. South Africa is an amazing place, and the sad thing about it is the government. I think that's the only natural disaster we have in the country, is the government. Once you live abroad, you get to really appreciate how diverse and special of a place South Africa is. We have amazing food, amazing nature, amazing people. But if you are just stuck there and you never get to live outside of that environment so that you're able to compare, you're really going to miss out. Like, I really always look forward to my trips back home. I always have my restaurants that I'm going to go to mapped out. It's something really, really special, and that's why we have so many visitors. That's why our tourism sector does so well. But like I said, if you live there, then you really have nothing to compare it with, and it's just your norm. I mean, people are amazed when I tell them that living in Muizenberg in winter, you can just see whales at the beach. You don't have to go out. That's what, like Hermanus, you don't have to take a boat out. They're just there while you're having lunch or taking a walk on the beach promenade. So that for people is amazing. Seals for me are like, I don't know, I think of them as like ocean cockroaches. not in a bad way. I mean, like, you just see them. There's nothing special about them, or at least for myself, there's nothing really special about them. But foreigners, they love that stuff. They don't get to see that all the time. So yeah, South Africa is special. Love it, love it, love it. And I'd love for people back home to also have opportunities of exploring, going out to see the rest of the world.
Finally, thank you so much for being with me. Finally, please plug your social media. Where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? We can have a conversation with you online.
Just do feel free to reach out on Instagram or even email. It's Athini M, so ATHINIM at AOL.com, or Athini M on Instagram, Twitter, to answer any questions you have about Sweden and moving out here.
Okay, so we have reached the end of our collaboration. We've reached the end of our conversation and our little chit chat. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for answering my emails and answering my DMs. And thank you so much for being willing and interested to have this conversation, to have this exchange, because I feel like it's really, really, really important, very valuable for myself, and also for people watching at home, people who are just thinking. And also, guys, I think for my audience, it's just about like opening up horizons, just broadening one's mind. Even if you never will leave South Africa, that's fine, right? That's okay. But sometimes it's just really interesting to see how people live, to see how people just make something of themselves outside of their home countries. And I think that's what's really interesting for me, and I hope that I can take this much further. So guys, if you enjoyed this conversation, if you enjoyed the South Africans Abroad collaboration series on YouTube, please click like, please do subscribe, guys. Please subscribe. And I want to do more of these, so I need to know if you guys are like feeling it. Are you vibing with the channel? Are you vibing with the content? Any questions that you have for Athini in Sweden, please also write them down below as well. Thank you guys. Have a great day.